It's your lucky day on TYT Sports. We have two sets of tactics. One coming up on Monday, Manchester United travelling to Anfield taking on Liverpool. And we have one going on today, which is Leicester City hosting or playing or travelling, should I say, to Chelsea to take on 2 years ago's champions. What will happen in this game? Let's talk some tactics. First things first, this isn't really tactical. Leicester City have conceded 3 goals from set pieces at the last 4. That's something that Chelsea, with all the firepower they have in the air, really need to take advantage of. So, although I'd like to break it down, as for their set piece movement, I think that Antonio Conte has that figured out. So get the balls into the box, early crosses, and take advantage of the fact that Leicester City really do not know what they're doing when it comes to anything in and around their area at the moment. But apart from that, quick point, defensively. What happens when you play 3 at the back is often or not teams are going to try to exploit these areas in here, because when you play 3 at the back, Antonio Conte very well aware of this as his time at Juventus, teams will often look to the long balls in here. This is something Leicester were geniuses at last year, playing against teams that had 4 in the back. So what you're going to see is Jamie Vardy's going to sit on that last man. He's going to try and spin, split these 2 defenders in here and try and take them into this corner, dragging them across, and then try to exploit the weak side. Maybe it's Albrighton's making that runner in behind. So Chelsea, similar to what I'll say in any formation that has defenders moving in one way or another, need to act like a horseshoe. So what this means is a horseshoe shaped like this. If one side moves up, the other side should all move with them. And that's going to rely on Moses, who I think is going to play in that position, coming across, really picking it up. Or if it's the other way, it's Alonso who's going to have to move and tuck in to try and prevent Leicester from trying to exploit these areas, which they are very good at. It's just a small thing to think about defensively, but in going forward, I think they'll do very well. And this is what I want to see Chelsea do to exploit Leicester City's weaknesses at the back. So Leicester City in the Premier League at the moment are conceding a lot of goals and conceding more goals than I think Ranieri would have expected. But when you lose N'Golo Kante and you don't replace him with a player that plays exactly the same as him or a very similar role, who just wants to protect that back 4, who wants to pick up strikers who are dropping a little bit deeper and communicate with the centre-backs, that is going to be a problem. So I'm going to highlight one game in particular. Manchester United destroying Leicester City 4-1. And what this game was, despite Zlatan Ibrahimovic not getting on the score sheet, what I seen from Zlatan is that he had almost a cigar out in these areas. He was able to pick up the ball in here, able to pick up the ball in here, and moving elsewhere and picking up the ball in here. And not once until the second half did I see Leicester City's midfield and centre-backs communicate. They never once said, all right, you're going to pick him up, we're going to drop a little bit deeper. What I did see was the likes of Wes Morgan and Huth make decisions that they didn't have to make last year. So Huth, in a perfect example where Zlatan had a clear volley in behind, not sure if you've seen it with Pogba dinking it in behind, he decided to just simply move with Zlatan, and the defence did not move up with him. And therefore, there was this gap in here, which at the time, Rashford dragged Huth across, and therefore they were kind of left stacked. They weren't exactly sitting in a perfect formation at the back, and they were very susceptible to a ball over the top. And what Zlatan did is he just knocked it into the feet of Pogba, spun in behind, and all of a sudden he was in all this space. Pogba dinked it in behind, and he had a free shot at goal. Chelsea can and will do the exact same thing. Now, although Willian, who I'm a big fan of, he works very well as almost a second striker when he has to with Diego Costa, he will not be playing because he has to travel back for the unfortunate circumstance that his mother passed away. So our condolences go to him. But Pedro has done this in the past with Barcelona, and I want to see him do this. I want to see Pedro almost act as he wants to play as a player simply to deflect away from Diego Costa. Because if the attention's on Costa, Morgan and Huth will try to get touch tight in here, and they'll try to cause a lot of pressure, maybe try and get Costa riled up. But what I want to see Pedro do, like Willian does very well, is I want to make this run in here. And what that does is it poses another question for Huth or Morgan. Do I follow the runner? Do I follow in here and then leave this gap in here, which Hazard can try and streak in behind or cause a problem? Or Costa, as he's been doing, picks the ball up on the edge of the box and has a ping. But instead of that, just simply moving across there just kind of causes them to either shift across, leave this gap, or one of them step with him, and all of a sudden you've got this kind of dismantled back 4 that has space in behind for Hazard, maybe to get a ball over the top from Matic or a little ball in behind. But simply put, just offering that option, just simply making that run, acting as a second striker, taking defenders away, taking where their focus is away from Costa and putting it somewhere else. Willian did that against Hull, and he was actually given the opportunity to put the ball in the back of the net from that area, unfamiliar to where he started. Because when you play a 3-4-3, what this allows you is a lot more flexibility in the final third, because you've got Matic and Kante there who are like a safety net, allowing you to move up top, allowing you to move in between each other. And I think that Chelsea really have something going for them at the moment. If they're able to get a victory against Leicester, I think they can do it in this way. Attack on set pieces, attack with early balls into the box, and try to cause that confusion between Morgan, Huth, and their centre midfielder, whoever's going to play in that role. And if you pose that question, you find a lot of freedom in behind. So I mentioned it briefly there with Chelsea in the ways that they could try and alter their back three to defend the runners. But one thing I want to see Leicester do is exactly what they do in the Champions League. Play a little bit more fearlessly. Try to utilise what they were able to do going forward last year. Yes, N'Golo Kante has left. Yes, that midfield is a little bit weaker. But they still have the exact same personnel, almost player for player, to exploit teams like Chelsea, who still are not good at defending counter-attacks, especially when they've got three at the back. So what I want to see from Leicester, as I mentioned there, look for Jamie Vardy in this area. Try to find him in behind. Try to ping it in, because when you've got three at the back, Moses is not a natural right wing back. He's not going to tuck in here and try and give you that stability. So Moses will often be caught up here. Attack the weak side. Use your second striker to drag centre backs across. Use him to create this space in here. Throw forward someone like Albrighton into the back post and try to attack that weak side. I've talked about it ever since anyone gave me a tactical board to kind of draw on. When you overload on one side, it's only natural for a team to try and put all of their players to try and counteract the opponents in that area, and it leaves a weak side attack. Chelsea will be susceptible to this. Azpilicueta, who I think will still start, is not a tall player. He's not a manager. He's not a player in the box that's going to be physical. So in order to do this, what you maybe want to see is Albrighton takes the place. Maybe he comes into this area. Maybe he allows for Slimani, who's got some sort of aerial threat, to be a mismatch on Azpilicueta. Mahrez can try and come on an overlap, and then all of a sudden, you're left one-on-one at the back post, and you can really utilise that to your advantage. I want to see Leicester get back into winning ways in the Premier League. Many people do. I'm not going to use that as a bias. I still think that Chelsea are the favourites in this game. But let me know what you think in the comment section below, at Francis_Maxwell on Twitter, and I'll see you guys very soon.